Hare Krishna students, let us begin our first computer class of the session. Hope you all are fine and you do remember what you have studied in the previous classes. So, you are more or less accommodate to see and understand what a computer is, and we all know that a computer cannot do anything unless proper instruction is given. The instruction must be given in a certain language that the computer understands. We all talk with each other in English or Bengali or Hindi or any other language, and we are able to communicate and understand each other when we speak such languages. But if there are two people that do not understand each other, suppose a Frenchman or an Indian, we need a translator who is going to translate the languages, and then only we would able to be understand and communicate. This is true in case of computers also. The language we speak is not understood by the computer and it requires a translator program to translate to its language. So, as I said earlier, that a computer requires instruction and those instructions must be written properly, then only a computer is going to respond. This set of instructions are called program, and the process of writing this program is a language. This process of writing those programs are called language. Those languages are called programming languages, and the person who does programming is called a programmer. Lady Ada Lovelace was the first computer programmer. Here you can see we need a programmer to write a programming language. Here you can see Lady Ada Lovelace is regarded as the first computer programmer. Now, as we know that the language that we speak today had developed through centuries, the English or Bengali and what we speak today was not the same that was spoken in 3000 or 300 years ago. Similarly, for programming languages also, there has been development since the computers had been developing. Computer languages are divided into four types of languages. Those are first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. First generation as machine language, second generation as first generation as machine language, second generation as assembly language, third generation as high level language, and fourth generation language. Let's start first generation language. First generation language or machine language. We call this first generation because it was first of its kind, and this language was used to program the computers that were built in 1950s or 1960s. We also call this machine language because it is only language that a computer understands. We also call this machine language because it is only language that a computer understands, even though in today's world we give the instructions in English or any other language, but it must be converted to translated to machine level language, and then only a computer would be able to understand what it is being instructed about and what it has to do. Machine level language is written by using only 0, which means off, and 1, which means on. This number system is called binary number system. This number system is called binary number system, where everything is represented in terms of zeros and ones. As the computer only understands these if the instructions are written in this language, then it would be very easy to understand by a computer. For the computer to read it and execute the instructions or do what the instruction says. There are two advantages of using machine language. It is very fast as it does not require to be translated, and it consumes less memory to store a set of instructions. But the disadvantage of using this programming language is that it is very tough to remember the numbers that are used to instructions. Suppose you want to add two numbers and you want to instruct the same to a computer, but you cannot write in English as it won't be able to understand. So therefore maybe the binary value of for add is 0010. So you to always remember this to do addition, you have to remember the corresponding binary value 0010 for doing addition. But do we stop those cases? It would be very, but do we stop at addition only? I don't think so, as we also want to do complex calculations, and in those cases it would be very hard to remember each and every instruction in numbers. It is very difficult to debug, that means find the errors in a program and rectify those errors. If I make a mistake in writing a 0 instead of 1, then the whole instruction will lose its purpose and do something else. Hence, finding such a mistake among a whole bunch of zeros and ones is very difficult. Another disadvantage is that it is completely machine dependent. That means a program, when written in one computer, may or may not run in another computer. This destroys the purpose of portable program, where we write one program which compatible with all machines. These advantages are the reasons for which very few people try to specialize in this language. Let us now move on second generation language or assembly level language. The machine level language was the low level language, and in second generation language the language is assembly level language. In this language the ones and zeros are replaced with symbolic terms called mnemonics, and therefore the user can learn this language faster than machine level language, and they don't need to type 0010 for addition. Instead, they can only type add as an instruction, as a code. As said previously that a computer only understands machine language, hence instructions written in assembly language must be translated to machine level language. A program is also called a source code or primary code. When we write something as a code, that means those are the source code or simply code. So therefore, to translate an assembly level code to machine level code, we need a translator program called assembler. As an assembler reads a code in assembly language and it converts it into machine level language code, also known as an object program or an object code. This language is also difficult to learn as programmer must remember all the mnemonic codes, and also this is machine dependent. Where programs are compatible with all the devices. Now let us talk about high level language, the third generation language. The high level language is according to third generation language. Now what are what are those the features of it? A high level language is very easy to learn and understand as it is written in English, and therefore a huge number of people can learn this type of languages. The example of high level language or programming languages are C, C++, Java, Python, and etc. And the list goes on. But a high level program cannot run on its own. It requires a translator program, and the example of high level language are C, C++, Java, Python. The high level program cannot run on its own. It requires a translator program, and we have two types of translator program for this: interpreter and compiler. Interpreter is the translator reads the program code line by line, and it reads a line and converts it into machine language, and then it does what the instruction says and repeats for the consecutive lines. This process is much slower and it stops if there is an instruction that is incorrect and stop executing the program. If there is a incorrect instruction, the process will stop and execute the program. Next, compiler. What is compiler? Whereas a file at first reads the whole source code file, if it is error free, then only it converts the complete file into a binary object file, else it says that there are some errors that must be rectified. So this programming language helps us to develop a lot of applications. The mobile apps. So this programming language helps us to develop a lot of applications. The mobile apps that we are using in our daily life are written in Android programming, written in an Android programming language, and there are so many programming languages that have different purposes. So there are interpreter and compiler in high level language that compiler is a translator program used to convert a high level programming language, and it translates the whole program at once, that is generates the object code for the program along with a list of errors if any. The execution is very fast. In other hand, what is interpreter? Interpreter translator program Interpreter translator program is used to convert a high level programming language into machine language. It translates line by line, that is, it converts one line at a time, executes the instruction, and then repeats the procedure for the remaining process. In case if any errors are found, they are to be immediately In case of any errors are found, they are to be immediately removed. The converted form is not stored anywhere and has to be generated at the time of execution of the program. So, interpreter programs are preferred for beginners and we are preferred for beginners and are slow in execution speed. Suppose the French president is visiting India on an official tour. In order to understand each other, both French president and Indian prime minister require an interpreter who can interpret French language into English language and vice versa. And compiler is a translator program used to convert a high level language programming into a machine level language program. It translates the whole program at once. That is, it generates the object code for the program along with a list of errors, if any. The execution is very fast. So let's end our class here today. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Thank you. Join your classroom and let me know if you have any doubts.